Hey everybody, in this video we're going to be talking about Resi Studio, which is the website you can use to configure your Resi encoders. So let's get started. So this is Resi Studio. This is the dashboard. This is kind of the first screen that I see when I pull up Resi Studio. We can see we've got our encoders here. We've got 3 here at Church on the Rock. We've got our schedule right here. We've got some other things like our bandwidth. And let's go first to settings. Let's act like we're plugging in a new encoder. And so in this settings tab, we're first going to go to device settings. And we're first going to look at the encoders. We can see we've got 3 Ray encoders right here. We've got 1 per campus, essentially. We can see their status. We can see it says stopped. When it says stopped, that basically means it's plugged in, it's seeing it, it's just not working right now because there's not a service. It's not operating right now. It will tell you if it's offline. It will tell you if it's actively encoding. This status page is very important. Let's go to these 3 dots right here. We can look at the details of this encoder. We can rename this encoder, obviously. We can do anything we want with this little edit button right here. We can see that we're using SDI signal. We can see the version. We can see our frame rate and our resolution, which is super important. We can see our network. We can see that that's connected, and we can even see the temperature of these sensors. We can see if there's any hardware problems in there. And so that's what our encoder looks like, our encoder page. Now let's go to encoder presets. This is kind of important because this sets up some of the basic settings to where you won't have to do them every single time when you schedule an event. And so you can see we've got some of the same things here. So South Campus, we're going to use the South Campus encoder preset. The South Campus encoder is going to use this South Campus preset. So what's in that preset? We can see this name we've got here. We can see the frame rate and the resolution. So we're doing 1080p frame rate, and we're doing 29.97 is our frame rate, 1080p resolution. And we're not going to do any kind of conversion. We're going to keep it the exact same. Let's put that back like that. And we can see our channels right here. We've got 1 video input, right? So we got 1 video channel, and this is the bit rate. And bit rate is kind of important. Basically, the bit rate is the overall quality of your stream. And so you can see I have a recommended bit rate and a maximum bit rate. It's mostly dependent on your internet, what the quality is that it's pushing. Basically, a low bit rate will be less quality, and a higher bit rate will be higher quality. It will be more data, though. It will be more information to process. So you could also view bit rate as the higher it is, the less reliability you'll have. Eventually, if you crank your bit rate, eventually you will have reliability issues. If it's a low bit rate, you will probably be a little more reliable, but it'll be a lower quality, right? And the codec that we use is H.264. If you know a lot about codecs, you probably know the difference between these two, but H.264 is kind of the standard one if you're going to the web. Hardware acceleration, that's basically just using the encoder's hardware to get it as fast as possible so you don't have any delays or hiccups or something like that. And so that's that encoder preset. And now let's go to, you can see we've got encoder presets for the other campuses too. So this is our Dream Center campus. This one's in 1080p, but the camera there is actually in 24 frames per second. So we were able to change that. We were able to go 24 frames per second. Still H.264 codec, slightly slower bit rate. That's okay. And our North Campus has one too. And that camera happens to be at 5994. Frames per second. So you can have all these different presets set based on what your camera setup is like, what your room setup is like. And so that's encoder presets. That's what we learned there. Now we're going to go to encoder channels. This is basically where your events are going to be stored within Resi. And so you can also assign permissions, and you can let people view those videos within Resi with this venues tab here. You can set that up if you like. Now let's go to web settings. So this is everything that is dealing with network connectivity, frame rates, resolutions, names, that kind of thing. That's what this device settings is. This is talking about your encoder. And now if we go up here to the web settings, there's a couple things we can do here. You can have presets in the same way that you can have encoder presets. You can have web presets. So it'll actually configure all of the settings that you used for a web event. But let's go to web channels. This will kind of break it down a little more. Let's go to our South Campus web channel. And so this is our South Campus web channel because we've got 3. We've got our content. This is like the title. This is what the video is going to be entitled. This is the player. So pretty much if anyone has this link, they can watch the player, not on Facebook or YouTube or anything, but Resi, you can also play the stream within the Resi Studio itself. This is an embed code. This can actually be pretty important if you are streaming to something that's not necessarily a social media destination. Like for us, for instance, we have an app. And so we have an app. And so in order to stream our service to our app, we have to input this embed code within the app there. And so let's see what else we got here. We got a North Campus one. Basically the exact same thing. That's what the web channels tab does. And then we've got our social media destinations, and I'll talk a little bit about these. These can be a little particular sometime, but if you want any information that I haven't covered, you can come right here to the Resi social media page, and it actually breaks it down exactly how to do it. But I'll give a brief overview. So basically with YouTube, we actually stream to YouTube and Facebook simultaneously. Resi will push to both of them. But to set up the account, you click link account. And then YouTube is pretty straightforward. You just link it to your YouTube channel, and you might have to give it permission on the YouTube side of things. But that's pretty straightforward. What I had more trouble with was the Facebook account. And that is because in your Facebook page where you're an admin, you have to do something that's a little tricky. So I'll go to this page right here. This is where our North Campus is streamed, and it's actually a service review, a campus review, which we'll talk about that later. But I'm going to go to manage because I'm an admin of this Facebook page. I'm going to go to group settings, and I'm going to go to all the way down here. I'm going to go to apps, click here. And what you have to do is you have to add the Resi app. That is basically the step that a lot of people miss when they're setting up their social media accounts. And other than that, the only thing in terms of social media that can get a little tricky is if you have an app or something that's not kind of a default destination like this in here, like an app, for instance. Our app isn't in here, but our app has the embed code, and so therefore it is picking up the stream there. Let's go to destination groups. This is actually a really cool feature. You can basically take these 2 social media destinations and you can combine them into one destination. So we can give it a name here. I'll just call it Church on the Rock social media. That's our destination group. That's the encoder channel, the web channel. We're going to grab South Campus. We're going to have it go to our Facebook group. And so I can pick our Facebook account right here. And then within our Facebook account, we have multiple pages and destinations. So I could stream it to the women's ministry. I could stream it to just the Dream Center campus. I'm just going to stream it to, which one is it here? Just the page, Church on the Rock Lubbock. That's kind of the main page. I'm going to make it public. I'm going to leave it as published. I'm going to title the video, and I'm going to give it a description. And then I can do the same with YouTube. I can select our YouTube channel. I can make sure it's public, private and unlisted. If it's unlisted, unless you can log into that YouTube account, you won't be able to see it. And private, you can kind of set who gets to see it, basically. But we always do public. Give it a video title, give it a description, and you're done. And so let me give it a title. I'll just call it Sunday Morning. Welcome to COTR Online. Let's do something like that. I'm going to copy and paste that. We'll do it in here. We'll call this Sunday Morning. And then I click Save. And now we have a destination group. So when we are scheduling our events, which we'll talk about a little later, we can actually have a destination group that we can then send that stream to, so we don't have to do multiple streams. Excuse me. Let's go back to settings. That's where I'm trying to go. I'm going to go to destination groups. I'm actually going to remove that for now. And so that's the dashboard. Dashboard is kind of all the current things that we have here. We can see our encoder activity and all that kind of thing. We've talked about our settings, which is our encoders. This is where when you first get your encoder and plug it in, you can set it up. So that's the encoder, like device settings, and this is the web settings. And it'll all make sense once we schedule an event. But the last thing I'm going to talk about is the library tab. This is our archived video content, as you can see right there. So we've got some videos that we might have saved, like a sermon or a particular moment that we want to keep in the cloud in this Resi account. We can keep that. And then we've got some web videos that were streamed live, videos that were web events, and you can see they actually expire in a little bit, and this is where if we wanted to, we could choose to save them. Encoder videos, basically the same thing. This is basically everything that has happened on that encoder. It's not necessarily the web event, it's the encoder event. And so we've got a repository for all of our videos. We've got a central library for all of our content. And then we can also upload videos. So if we want to play a pre-recorded video and go live with that, this is where we would upload it right there. And then we've got the schedule tab. We'll talk a little bit more about that in the next video. And the last tab here is the analytics. We can see our average watch time. We can see how many viewers we've got. We can break it down by the city. A lot of great information right here to see how your stream is doing. And let's go to these account settings real quick. This is our organization details. This is Church on the Rock. This is all their account info. This is our bandwidth. This is basically how much of the network, how much of the cloud network are we using in a given month. Any kind of subscriptions we have or licenses. This is where you can see all that information. And yeah, this is basically all the organizational details. Let's go to account. This is where you change your name and your email and all that stuff. And this is where you can actually add other people to collaborate. You can have other people schedule these things. You can have other people do basically whatever you want. It doesn't just have to be one person who's working in Resi Studio. So we've got a couple of folks in here that all have access to Resi. They can all troubleshoot something, or they can all schedule something, whatever they need to do. And so that is a really quick rundown of the Resi Studio program. And we also talked about how to set up an encoder once it's physically plugged in. In the next video, we're going to be talking about the nitty-gritty details of scheduling a live service with Resi.